22, I was in charge of a Hawk. I had another Hawk as my wingman. We're flying around at low level, so doing 420 knots at 250 feet. So the youngsters amongst you, it's 80 meters. Okay. Or a visual thing for some people is you take a rugby or football pitch and put it on end, you'd fly into the top posts. That's how low you are.
This is insane.
Yeah. So doing 420 knots, so doing 7 miles a minute, and you're flying around and you're being attacked by a bounce. They'll get you off target, get you off your route. You fall behind. You've then got to work out, okay, I'm minute, 20 seconds behind. How do I get that time back? You don't just put the throttle on because that uses fuel.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to work out to cut corners and various things using your, brain ticking over all this. You don't keep your eye on your fuel. Make sure you don't run out of fuel to be able to hit your targets. You're avoiding being shot down. And then when the time's right, we bugger off, get back to base and not run out. And all that's done with a Hawk, which literally has got it's got a compass, it's got a stopwatch, and you've got a map with basically one eyeball, a Mark 1 eyeball, as we used to call it. That's all you had. So the proverbial, you're flying around at 420 knots, 250 off the ground, and trying to do all that, and you're holding a map in your hand. Now, take this the right way. Don't mean that I give you carte blanche to go and do what you want, but you can't use your mobile phone in the car when you're driving around at 70 miles an hour. But I'm flying around at 420 knots and I'm having to use this to navigate and check where I am and try to work out the timings and all that sort of stuff in a map. We're taught how to do it, and there's a certain technique you have to doing it so you don't hit the ground. But the point being is, at that point when you get to that sort of, I've heard several people say it, and I recognize this, that particular point, you could argue you're probably as the rawest as a pilot, probably at your best, because you've been honed to that particular point. After that, you go and start flying aircraft, which starts giving you, Tornado suddenly gives you all this head-up display and all the information. You've got INAS systems and you've got a moving map display and all that sort of stuff. It starts giving us more information. In other ways, it's difficult to fly. But in the raw flying sense, just flying on a map, compass and a speedo and a stopwatch, that's what you were doing at 22.
Yes, it's difficult to process for me.
For you who've done experience, yeah. So Joe would have been the same thing. John would have been the same thing. All of us pilots that went through, that's what you're up to.
It's incredible. It really is. Raw flying, like you call it. And
yeah. I look back now. I'm not trying to be big about it. You look back now and go, oh my God, even I'm sort of thinking, bloody hell.
And you were 22.
Yeah. Because I was young. I didn't go to university, as you know. So I joined slightly earlier than the rest. So, but there were people that joined straight from school at 18 and they would be the same.
There was a reason I didn't want to split. I think we've had to, and I'm glad we did in the end, but split rugby and the aviation element, because I'm wondering whether a lot of this was transferable.
To a certain extent, it is.
Tactically.
Yeah. Tactically, it depends what you mean by tactically, but there's lots of elements of trying to solve problems, trying to think on your feet, under pressure. You've got the physical challenge and, multi-dimensional facet of playing rugby at the highest level, whilst at the same time flying in a jet and trying to do all the different things and make decisions while, lots of different things are going on. So there's a lot of similarities between it. Without a doubt, some of the flying I did later on in my career when I was flying on 100 Squadron, flying on Hawks, and it was my day job, 4.5 years on Hawks, you're pulling 6G regularly. When you're flying evasive maneuvers at low level. And people don't realize how tiring that is. If you watch the Top Gun Maverick movie, a lot of the stuff they did for real. You could tell it was real. And you could see the effort the actors were going through in having to pull the G, and all the G was going on. And for us, you're pulling 6G so that sortie I was talking about, when you are two-ship and you're trying to evade, everything was done at 6G. So you turn, went bang, pull the 6G, and your turns were all done at 6G. So for anybody uninitiated, it's basically 6 times everything. So your arms, your head, everything weighs 6 times more. And the thing to try and get around to people is that, but I'm still trying to fight. So I don't just look like that and, this is looking for, I am literally turning in my seat, trying to look over my shoulder, back past my, tail to try and see where the guy is to try and monitor it. And I'm moving around and I'm trying to fight accurately. And of course, your arms are weighing 6 times more. So you're trying to hang on to the throttle in the stick and trying to, finesse that maneuvering whilst at the same time pulling 6G. So all that has and so it's tiring. It is very tiring pulling 6G physically. And so there is a bit of cardio going on at the time because you're panting quite heavily after you've done a few of those.
I bet. And yeah, I agree with you. The film's brilliant, but...
Oh, there's a but.
The average Joe isn't going to appreciate, you've explained it, the amount of time and effort and also the concentration needed for that raw flying element. Yeah. So yeah, you've got Hollywood, but they're doing it for real. And these are, Joe spoke about Tom Cruise, for example. So an actor that actually does fly.
Yep.
And as Paul, I think it was 9G, he's experienced. And so there's years and years of training that go into that moment.
I mean, if you take me from when I first started flying the Jet Provost and you put me in just pull 6G and hold it, if I wasn't trained very quickly, I'd faint. So again, bit of physiology. When you see them fainting, so there's one guy that faints when he's pulling the G, isn't it? The issue there is that the real challenge is between the brain and the heart. So if you don't get the blood pumped from the brain to from the heart to the brain, then obviously it's starved of oxygen. And normal reaction is, starved of oxygen, I'll tell you what, I'll faint, because then you tend to fall flat. So therefore, getting the blood from the heart to the brain is much easier. That's why you faint. It's just a simple thing, flat, no pressure getting the blood from heart to head. But obviously, if you're flying around or doing anything, it's obviously has a bit of a problem.
Yes.
So one of the things that we do when we start flying is when we start flying around, we didn't pull 6G when we first started, but we started pulling a bit of G. So if you go into a 60-degree angle of bank turn and just hold level 60 degree, you'll pull about 2G just to maintain level and turn 60 degree. Okay, so that gives you an idea. So if you want to snap the turn so you make the turn much quicker, then obviously you pull into it. And obviously you need to think about going more than 60 degrees, otherwise you start climbing. So there's all that sort of dynamics going on. So that's increases. So you virtually go to 90 and pull, so it's flat. And so you're trying to work out that when you're learning how to do it, you slowly progress up to it. So we used to do these things called max rate turns, where they literally went up to 15, 20,000 first. You tip in, pull, and they'd ask you to pull the 6G, and they're trying to teach you how to get to the light buffet. So when you pull, you've obviously got the magic stuff that happens over the wings. If you pull too much, it breaks the airflow up. And so what tends to happen, it tends to go and disturb the tail rudder and the air elevators at the back. And so what you tend to find is on your rudder, if there's a bit of turbulence from that, you'll feel it on the rudder. So that's what we talk about is the light buffer. You can either feel it or you can feel it on the rudder pedals as well.
Okay.
So that's the sort of thing that we're getting that sort of finesse and feeling from. You can just feel it on the rudder pedals, and then when you're just feeling it on the controls. And so you're trying to hold that, but of course you're trying to pull 6G, you're trying to keep accurate, you're trying to keep the speed, you're trying to rotate and keep going into that turn. And so everything keeps maneuvering. So you go off, you get in. So you go in, you go 5 degree, you go 7G, whoa, too much, and all sorts of stuff. So when you're first learning, you're in and out, all this sort of stuff. And you do that and you go, okay, stop, relax, go up the top and do it again. Oh my God, I can remember that. You finish that flight, you're knackered. It's like doing a flipping training session.
I was about to say, yeah.
And what it is teaching you. So so one of the misnomers that people have is they think we've got G pants on. So in the Jet Provost, you don't have them. Okay, you don't have G pants. It's not to get the Hawk. So you learn to fly with G pants. And the G pants start to inflate when you start getting to 2G plus. So when you start doing a 6G turn, you start them to inflate. It gives you an idea that's roughly 2G. So another way of learning sort of from just senses and feeling, you can automatically. But people think that the G pants force the blood. It doesn't. What you have to do is there's several things. You've got to tense all the muscles in your body that you can to try and force the blood up. So part of that is obviously the big space of your lungs. So you hold your breath, which inflates the lungs, which means that you can force against that. You then tense all the muscles as much as possible that can force against it, but also you tense against the G pants. So any of the muscles outside, so your big muscles, that's why if you look at the G pants, they're all up against the soft parts of your muscles, your calves and your thighs, etc. So as they blow up, you can tense your muscles and your muscles tense against the G pants, and that helps to force all that. So
I didn't know that. No.
You basically, they call it an M1 maneuver. It's basically going to toilet maneuver. So you like that to force pressure into your lungs. You're squeezing all your muscles. And that's how you learn how to control it. So the G-pant helps you with, I don't know, I think it's like 1.5, 2G potentially. The rest of it's about how you use your technique to force. Many times you're flying, all of us pilots have gone through this. You go into a turn at low level and you can start. So what happens is if you start losing blood out of your head, you tend to start getting this starting to grey out. So you'll start feeling grey out and you start having this tunnel vision. So your vision sort of filters in like this. And if you go too long, obviously your vision goes and you eventually faint. So actually there are plenty of signals coming up. You can feel that sort of coming up and then you tense a bit more and your vision comes back again because blood comes up. So you learn how to do that, over time. You can just tense more and whatever. But that all comes with training, 100%. So that's what I'm saying. For the actors, they would have had some lead into that. But we had lead in from 2.5 years of basic flying training through advanced flying training to flying the jet at Chivna to go into that, whereas they would have had, I don't know, 2 months of flying and leading into it. So I personally give them fair credit, as aircrew, as actors to go and do that, 100%.
Yeah, it was a great movie.
Oh yeah, I enjoyed it. I mean, there's Hollywood stuff to it, but still, it's
one or two.
From a flying perspective, 2, 100%. At the time, one was just great, seeing that sort of stuff. They do the military films very well, Hollywood, because they get the chance to go in. They're very good at tying up a relationship with the Navy or the Marines or whatever. And so they get great access and great stuff, whereas we don't quite have that here.